So here we are in the God Kings, and, well, after trashing the Kassites, and then pointing out, oh, Egypt's going to win, well, the Babylonians have been convinced into a forgive and forget policy of sorts, where they're going to try to push down and attack the Egyptian territory. And people are going to leave alone whatever little they have left, which is really not much. To what extent that can be done is hard to tell, but it means the Hadi will be, say, trying to take and launch maybe from Malashia. But that's really tough because without a land connection, at the end of the turn they end up with nothing. But their hope is that they can get that one territory by the end of the turn. And then for the Assyrians, again, their path is not very clear, but they want to take Carchemish. This does not leave the Babylonians in a good shape at all, but at least there's no further damage that's going to be done to them. They have to move their army out of here, which incidentally I seem to have cheated in being too big before. So we'll see what happens there, because the Hadi have pretty much gotten the green light to continue taking Matami. I'm not sure. I just don't think they're going to. I think they're just going to sit here and be obstructionists at this point. They're sick of this. If they can get the siege off in Kadesh, great. If not, hey, too bad. Well, for the Egyptians, in the last video I mentioned, they couldn't go through Biblios and Smyrna. Actually, they can. It's just riskier. So they did that. They grabbed Biblios and marched up, and this will give them Amaru for free. The problem is, if they had to retreat, they would have had to go through Samira back to Biblios and take an extra step loss. But they so overwhelmed the opponent. It wasn't quite an overrun. It would have been if the opponent had tried to leave a piece in Kadesh. They were unable to withdraw. Chariot charge happened, and Kadesh has fallen. Well, the expected Hadi attack on Matami was successful. Chariot charge, none went off, so both sides got away kind of a little easier. Oh, I haven't assigned the damages yet, but they ended up 20 to 22. A couple of point modifiers for the Hadi swung this. They're going to get a victory point. And we saw the first major retreat here, where the Babylonians had to go 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. That's the maximum. They only took one step loss from it additionally. They're down here in Carchemish now. Otherwise, they would have had to go 1, 2, 3, 4 and take 3 step losses and put themselves in a position where they could just maybe probably attack the Assyrians without much response on the next turn. They're going to get to do that in Mary anyway, I think. And I think the Babylonians have pretty much given up on trying to win. They're looking at bringing the Assyrians down so they can get second place. I got to assign losses to the Hadi. A couple of cards played for the Hadi's advantage as well. +1 to battle, -1 to their opponents in battle. I got to assign points of damage to the Hadi. And then, well, we go on to the last, which is the Assyrians. And to end things here, Carchemish did not fall. We go into round 5. They played a minor campaign, an expensive card kind of, but they don't think they're going to split up. They wanted to hold some of their others, the Wisdom of Horus that allows them to move their army quicker, the Popular Upheaval, which maybe would allow them to strip Canaan again from the Egyptians, and Stratagems, which would prevent an interception from occurring. Anyway, we're on to the 5th round, and this is pretty much the end of the turn. So the Kassamites, on their part, moved back from Carchemish into Mari, laid siege to Mari itself. They failed to get it, and that means they're going to have to withdraw back out of there. But they've given up and just really are fighting to regain whatever they can for second place. And in that case, that means they have to fight Assyria as far as they're concerned. When we go to Egypt, they marched up through Carchemish, took this space, and then attacked at Haran, and had all the advantages on their side. Numerically, they were the only ones with chariots, and they had a better leader. They also added this fierce charge, an additional -1 to make their charge roll more likely. They failed the charge, the numerical advantage wasn't that high. It was 31 to 36 to 35 for the Assyrians to max table for the I'm sorry, for the Egyptians. I've got the wrong people there. But they were defeated by a bad die roll combination, 2 to 6. Ends up being even 15 points each, and they're driven off. Victory point for the Assyrians over there. And now we go on with the lesser end of things. And on the back end, we have the Hatti slide through Aleppo down into here, where the Egyptians, Ramses, tried to intercept and failed. Converted that, moved down, converted Kadesh, and took Amaru away from the Egyptians, even though there's kind of this buffer between the situation. Ooh, I don't know if they can move through the garrison, actually. Better look that up. Yeah, I was right. Obviously, you can walk by the city with the garrison just as you could forces that withdraw into a city. What you can't do is supply through here unless you have some sort of masking force there. Which means, well, there's no real supply. What it means is the Hatti are going to start back up here in the north again and have to face their way back down. Then when we go to the Assyrians, they continued their siege of Carchemish and failed, and that means they're going to be out of there. It also means that Carchemish as a province is now Egyptian again. Which, yeah, they lost Amaru, but they retained Carchemish. They're going to be generating a lot of points here. I'll calculate those points out. We're at the end of the 9th round, though. And I'll come back with sort of a rundown of the score. Wow. Well, that was kind of unrealized by anyone in this game. Let's take a look at some of these scores. The weakest scoring were the Assyrians with only 8 points, and that makes sense. They have just this tiny little territory. Granted, the Sumerians or the Babylonians are going to be booted out, but they really haven't expanded at all from where they from that initial agreement. They didn't manage to get Carchemish. They didn't manage to gain anything here, really. So that's great. But then let's look at our next, which is our Babylonians, who actually, I think, tied the Egyptians, both at 10 points each. Babylonians, again, lost a lot of ground. They're not gaining anything on the Egyptians. Clearly the Assyrians, who, are in third place, are losing ground to both of them. But who gained ground? Well, the Hatti. 19 points. They were 1 point away. Now, they won a couple of battles, so they got 17 points of territory. But they were 1 point away from the automatic victory conditions. If they could have converted just one more thing of value, could they have? Is there anything they could have done? Well, conceivably, they could have perhaps forced a battle against the Egyptians. And if they had won that, they would have won the game right there. And now they just alerted everyone, hey, we're producing 17 points a turn. We got a shot here. And that's a position that wasn't really obvious to anyone else at this point. So they could win a sudden death victory on the last turn, avoiding the obvious steamroller of the Egyptians. And to tell you the truth, a lot of people are kind of not necessarily unhappy about this. They may just allow Egypt and the Hatti to fight this out and see the Assyrians and Babylonians take their own little war. They might be fine with that. We'll see where we end up going. When I plug the points in, we know where we're going to be. Let's see. 116 for the Egyptians. 98 for the Babylonians. They're just not going to gain enough. That's too big a jump. Here, only 8 added. So we're looking at 94, falling further behind. Here, the big 19, 80, 92. They're actually in striking range for that second or third place positions. But much more importantly, they're the only ones with a real chance at getting a victory here. We'll see how that all turns out. All right, I'm loading this one up.